afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the March Life Unites Us webinar, Empowering Your Community, Life Unites Us Community Award Grant Showcase. My name is Erica Saylor, and I'm a research associate at the Douglas W. Pollock Center for Addiction Outreach and Research at Penn State Harrisburg, and I'm going to be hosting and moderating today's webinar. For today, we'll be covering some quick items just related to using Zoom, a little bit of information about the Life Unites Us campaign for any folks who are joining one of our webinars today for the first time, information on the Community Award Grant Program, and then I'm going to introduce our speakers and they'll give presentations on their projects, and then we'll have an extended discussion and question time and wrap up for today. Before I move on, if you feel so inclined and would like to pop in the chat where you're from and your organization, we'd love to see who's on with us today and ready to hear all the great work folks are doing as part of our Community Award Grant. If for any reason you get disconnected from Zoom today, please try your original link. If for any reason that doesn't work, this is just a reminder that today's webinar is being recorded and will be posted on the Life Unites Us data dashboard, as well as the slides, so you'll have access to it at a later point in time as well. If you have any questions for our panelists and speakers today, please enter them directly in the Q&A feature, just so we have a little bit of an orderly system to go through them. Moving right along here, talking about the campaign. So Life Unites Us is a project developed to reduce stigma around substance use disorder. This is done by using a people-forward approach that aims to connect individuals through stories. Through research and practice and anti-stigma work, we have found that connecting people through their stories and similarities can and will reduce stigma. Ooh, great, I see lots of people posted in the chat. In order to do this, our team through Life Unites Us records stories of community members across PA, both stories of personal recovery as well as an ally to someone in recovery. Short stories are then produced and featured on the Life Unites Us website and social media. The intent is that by sharing stories of hope and resiliency, we can prove that recovery is probable, reducing stigma makes recovery more likely, addiction is treatable, those living with an addiction are just like everyone else. Those living with substance use disorder are so much more than their disease. As I mentioned in the last slide, this campaign can be found online. The website features a library of resources that can be shared across social media platforms, and the campaign works alongside a variety of local partners to help bring it to life. The aim is to provide a platform for voices from your community and a resource to add to the work that many of you are already doing to end stigma. On the screen here, you can see is the Life Unites Us webpage, as well as all of our social media handles. The great news about Life Unites Us is that you can join us in ending stigma by following and sharing the campaign. If you're a part of a larger organization or effort, we would love to invite you to become a partner with Life Unites Us. Partners of the campaign have the opportunity to recruit and share stories to and from their communities. If you sign up as a partner, you'll have the following benefits. You can have our logo included on our website, have curated campaign videos tailored to your community, be invited to our webinars and trainings like today, get access to exclusive partner resources, and also have input on what types of trainings and webinars we do next. If you are interested in becoming a partner, you can email Ashley or info@Life Unites Us, and both of those emails are on the screen now. Moving right along here to talk a little bit about the Community Award Grant Program. The Community Award Grant Program was established after community feedback was received on ways that we could improve the campaign and project as a whole and better support community organizations. The grant program aims to engage and empower community-based organizations, or CBOs, to develop and implement activities that decrease stigma and increase community understanding of substance use disorder, or SUD. The process of the grant follows a process many other grants follow. It starts with a call for proposals. We typically announce these in the newsletter and put information on the website. And the grant program has historically prioritized smaller and grassroots organizations. For folks interested, they'll have to submit information on their respective organization, proposed use of funding, budget, all of those kinds of standard things. And once the window of receiving proposals has closed, the Community Impact Committee is the entity that reviews these proposals and ultimately selects awardees. We do our best to keep the process unbiased and equitable by redacting names of organizations prior to giving the proposals to our Community Impact Committee to review. After the Community Impact Committee reviews and selects awardees, the project team further decides on finalists, and then these folks are finally approved by the project sponsor, which is the Pennsylvania Department of Drug and Alcohol Programs. Organizations are then notified of the award, provided the funding, and begin implementing and evaluating their projects. The awardees also participate in post-award update meetings to provide status updates, but also to help foster a connection and relationship among all the grantees selected. Since its inception, the grant program has completed its first round of funding. A second round is in process right now for selection, but the first round is completed, which is very exciting, and 5 awardees were chosen across 4 regions of Pennsylvania. And we're very excited today to have them on this webinar today, and you're going to be hearing from folks at these respective organizations, which is very exciting. So today, each organization will have the time to share information about their programs. And as I mentioned earlier, we will have extended time for discussion and questions. I do want to make a quick note that unfortunately, one of our panelists, Nicole Keels McGruber from Community Hero Action Group, is not able to join us today because of a family emergency. But I will be going over some of the basics about their program, and I will provide her contact information if anybody has questions and would like to reach out to her directly. So for our first panelist today, we will be starting with Lee Cruz. Lee is the CEO and president of Transformation Transitional Living. Lee is a certified recovery specialist and also the author of the book, Transformation: How to Get Your 180 Degrees. Lee, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everybody. So I am the CEO, president of Transformations, which has been established back in 2015, I believe it was. So it started out as a transitional living program was what we were going to go with, but we never turned out to be a transitional living program. So now what we do is we empower the community and breaking the stigma of addiction and help advocate for people who are still using and currently using, and try and empower them to get them into treatment, encouraging them to start a program of recovery. So our mission is, to support the development of any individual's natural desire to achieve a spiritual, successful, and productive life through faith, hope, education, and love. While working with transformation participants, they will be supported and encouraged in developing their sobriety, advancing in life skills, gaining a better quality of life, and becoming an asset to the community. So we started this in English, and I am Puerto Rican, so I felt as if my population was being left behind because their barrier of speaking English. So we started doing these speaker series in English where people share their lived life experiences in their addiction, and then how they got tired of their addiction and they started a process of recovery in whatever pathway that may have been, and the process of their recovery, and then where it led them to. And most of the people that speak at the Recovery Speak speaker series are people that currently work in the field. So other people's stories and lived life experiences are very empowering to people who are still sick and suffering. And when they hear these stories, it helps encourage them to start their process of recovery. So Life Unites Us has helped us to continue doing that with the Hispanic population. We target the Hispanic population. So we brought these speaker series only in Spanish. And at these speaker series, so we raffle off, the person comes in, they tell their story, there's a Q&A, people are engaged, people have asked for treatment, where then myself and the other members of Transformations, help lead them to the hospital, to the warm handoff program, start CRS process with them, getting them started with their pathway to recovery, meeting them where they're at, and encouraging them to stay connected with other people in recovery. And for the most part, the rooms have always been packed. We've had a big impact on the Hispanic population, and a lot of people did get treatment and then are still currently working their pathway in recovery currently. A lot of them asked for the continuance of the program, so it has been going good. The Council on Chemical Abuse here in Berks County has been financially supporting us as well. And we're doing a good job with the Hispanic population, as we are with the English-speaking population as well. I'm an advocate for harm reduction, so that helps a lot in meeting the clients where they're at. I work hand in hand with PA Harn. I'm sure you've heard of them. So it's a harm reduction network. So, we hand out Narcan kits. We also supply them with fentanyl testers and give them literature and get them connected with local agencies that can help them get started on their process. Yep. Anything else? Any questions?
If anybody has any questions for Lee, feel free to put them in the Q&A here. And thanks, Lee, for sharing. I think you guys have done a ton of great work down there, and excited to continue to see you guys offer such great things to the community.
Thank you.
You bet. All right, gonna share my screen again here. As I mentioned, I'm just going to share a little bit about Community Hero Action Group, since Nicole is not able to join us. CHOG is a nonprofit located in Southeast PA that educates the Black community on a variety of different topics. For this project, CHOG held pop-up events with educational materials on stigma and SUD. They also did extensive networking to secure partnerships for hosting monthly events where they feature speakers to speak on topics related to addiction. As well as their direct community engagement work, CHOG also produced educational YouTube videos on SUD and utilized funds for their annual conference for adding an SUD component. If anyone is interested in seeing the YouTube videos, there's the information on the screen currently, and that link will also be in the slides that are posted afterwards as well. Nicole and her team did a great job with all their efforts, and her contact information is listed on the slide now, as well as the URL for CHOG's webpage. Webinars are really nice, except when you got to share and unshare your screen when you have multiple monitors. So bear with me here, folks. All right, so moving on to our next speaker. She is Bobby McBurney Johnson. Bobby is the founder of REST Inc., a nonprofit organization that helps to support kinship families. As a grandparent raising her 2 grandchildren through her work with the Clearfield County Area Agency on Aging, Bobby recognized a gap in services for kinship families across Pennsylvania. Bobby also leads a family recovery support group called PALS and is a trained BALM, Be a Loving Year course facilitator in the Central PA area. Bobby, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thanks so much, everybody, for being here today. And this is really such an honor to allow us all to share what we're doing in our communities, and certainly is a personal honor for me to share what REST is doing in Clearfield County and hopefully beyond to fight stigma. Next slide. So just, I know Erica touched on what REST is about. We're all about supporting kinship caregivers and kinship families, but I wanted to spend just a few minutes talking about our why and how it relates to the anti-stigma campaign and what we're doing with the Life Unites Us campaign grant funding. So we know that more and more families are kinship families, And that sometimes we typically use that terminology of grandparents raising grandchildren, which certainly most of the time that's the scenario. It doesn't have to be that. Someone can be a friend of the family, they could be a teacher, whatever, raising a child that is not part of their family necessarily. So it's all encompassing, but we do know based on statistics across the United States and here in Pennsylvania, as well as our local community, the number one reason grandparents are raising grandchildren today is because of parental substance use and or incarceration. And so, you know, especially during the pandemic with everything else and everything, so many of these issues kind of came to the forefront because you started to see so much more of that impact, particularly even at school. You know, the question became for us, you know, well, what are we doing for the kiddos? What are we doing for these children who are impacted? And as Erica mentioned, actually, I am a grandparent raising my two grandchildren. We've had full custody, we've had shared, we're back to full. And so we have lived experience in the substance use disorder space, right? And in our county, 47% of grandparents are actually responsible for raising their grandchildren. And that was actually in 2017. So those numbers are probably higher right now. And as I mentioned, we started to look at this and say, well, what are we doing to address the elephant in the room? What are we doing at school? What can we do to help support these kids and their families, right? And learning more about substance use disorder as a disease and give people hope. So that's where our project came from, because ultimately what we want to share with everybody is that, yeah, it's tough. I always tell folks in my support group, like, there isn't anything that's really warm and fuzzy about this, but there's certainly that place and an important place for connection and that recovery is possible. So we want to share that good news. Next slide. So we started to look at what could we use, what kind of materials could we use to make this happen? And we came across NACOA's children's program. And if you haven't seen that or haven't had the opportunity, it's a phenomenal curriculum that they developed several years ago to educate young people basically in age-appropriate ways about substance use disorder, and that there are safe people who can help them, whether it's at their school, at their church, at their faith center, wherever they may be, that they can build that safety system. And there are people out there who understand, who want to come alongside them and help them thrive. And so at the time when I first started this journey, Sis Wagner was the president CEO of NACOA. She was phenomenal. I mean, she personally reached out to me all the time. She was such a support. And then she passed the torch to Sandy Ogapola, who again was very supportive. And so even at those upper levels at NACOA, they were reaching out and helping us make this thing come to fruition. They helped us train 17 facilitators, which we were able to do with the grant funding from Life Unites Us. And these are all people who have other jobs who want to do this voluntarily to help out at the school. And I'll get to that more in a minute. And like I said, we're just so supportive in the program. What this program is about is it is an educational support program. So this is not therapy. This is more or less a support group for kids. And you can hold it in a number of different settings. They can be used as part of treatment and recovery programs, as part of the family outreach. It can be used in schools, which is where we actually chose to implement it at this point in the pilot program, at summer camps, faith organizations, recovery centers. And there's just a lot of flexibility in where you can utilize this program. And essentially, they cover several main topics like substance use disorder, sharing your feelings, communicating your feelings, developing a safety program or systems for yourself, and so on. But there's 100+ different lesson plans through there on each of those topics, and they're also age-based. So it's intended for anybody kindergarten or really first grade through grade 12. So next slide. As I mentioned, this is a pilot partnership. So our goal is, as we go through this, and we are in the midst of it now, that we can hopefully share this down the road in other venues, as I mentioned, all the other places that we can offer it, and expand that reach. But initially, as I mentioned, the pandemic, Clearfield Area School District, the superintendent is actually part of our board here at the Agency on Aging. And so we had some discussions with him, and also with Russ. It's weird that I kind of hold two different places there, but that social capital was really important for us because, especially after the pandemic, it was tough. It was really tough, especially for these grand families who had these kiddos. And in our area, it's extremely rural. Some places either don't have good internet, they can't afford internet, especially the older adults on fixed incomes. And so the pandemic and school together was kind of horrific for them. And it was really tough. And so some of these other issues and things that these families are facing kind of came to the forefront, right? So we met with the superintendent and the administrative team members at Clearfield Area School District and pitched the idea of like, hey, what about doing one of these programs during the school day? That was key for me because what I didn't want is I didn't want people to have to bring the kids back to school or make it any more difficult for them in any way. And the kids are already there. So they agreed, and they not only agreed to run it, they gave us a space, they gave us time during the day. Their guidance counselor team became involved. It was just a great partnership, and it continues to be. As I mentioned, we have volunteer facilitators, 17, who got trained in a 2-day training by the NACOA leaders, and everybody was basically active in promoting the program. So right now we have 10 students who are participating. They come towards the end of the day. They're in grades 2 through 6. And our goal is as we get more students in there, we're going to maybe split that up and create another group just to be a little bit more age condensed. But right now it's going okay. What they learn about in the group is we give them a safe space to talk about their situation. It was interesting because the first day we met, it was like half of them, most of them actually, didn't even really know why they were there. And so that was a little odd, support groups, you tend to think, well, they're choosing to come. But they're cool. We talked about it and they are definitely opening up even after a couple sessions. So we teach them about substance use disorder as a disease and all those other topics that we talked about. Most importantly, what I love is we teach them the 7 C's, and that's actually where the name came from. One of our facilitators, we opened it up to our facilitators to give a crack at naming the club, and someone came up with the C Club. And so that's where it came from, the 7 C's. And the 7 C's are basically sound very similar to 12-step approach for recovery. I didn't cause it, I can't control it, and I can't cure it. But there are 4 things they can do. I can take good care of myself by communicating my feelings, making healthy choices, and celebrating me. So we did that. Actually, that was our lesson last week. And it was amazing, the response from the kids. And now we'll go through that every meeting that we have and help reiterate those truths and rules to live by. And then each of the lessons, of course, support how they do that, how they make that work in their life, and how they live a healthy lifestyle. They're learning problem solving, as I said, developing a safety system and seeking those supportive services, making those things available to them. And then the other nice piece of it is there's educational materials that go home to the guardians, parents or guardians. Most of the cases that we have, the children are there because of parental substance use. But that's not always the case. It might be a brother or a sister or somebody else that lives in the home. Either way, we're still teaching them awesome skills and they're learning about this disease. And then so are their families. So it gives them that opportunity. Next slide. And I should also mention before I open up the questions that part of the grant was written for us to offer this as well at a local career and technology school. The director of that school was very interested and still is in the program and wanted to have it offered to, which is primarily high school students throughout our county. We just haven't been able to get that in play yet there, but certainly some of those funds are earmarked for that program at that level as well. So that's a little bit about what we're doing, and I'm open to any questions.
Great. Thanks so much for sharing, Bobby. Doing some really great work up there. If anybody has any questions for Bobby, feel free to pop them in the Q&A and we will cover them here in a little bit. And I'm going to introduce our next speaker here. Well, if he wants to get ready to share his slides. Our next speaker is Brian Knuckles. Brian is a senior program coordinator with Young People in Recovery. He is a passionate mental health advocate for young people in recovery. Having overcome personal struggles with addiction, Brian is committed to helping others find their own path to recovery and to promoting a greater understanding of addiction and mental health issues. Brian earned his psychology degree at Penn State, where he discovered his passion for counseling and helping others. During college, Brian became involved with the recovery group, where he found support and encouragement from others in recovery. Inspired by this experience, Brian decided to pursue a career in mental health advocacy with the goal of helping others overcome addiction and mental health issues. After completing his degree, Brian began working as a mental health advocate, providing support and guidance to young people in recovery. Through his work, Brian has gained a deep understanding of the challenges faced by individuals struggling with addiction and mental health issues, as well as the importance of effective therapeutic interventions. Brian, the floor is yours.
Thanks for that, Erica. And well, first of all, I just want to say, as I'm sharing my screen, there we go. Can you all see that okay? Good. Yeah, as I'm just pulling this up, I'm just so moved after these presentations. Bobby, thank you so much. Lee, Nicole, and then I'm so looking forward to your presentation, Kristen. One of the externalities, the positive things of this group, of getting this grant is we've been able to come together many times and get to know each other and learn about these programs. And that's been so inspirational for me. And I'd like to now tell you about our program, the MOUD Storytellers. So first of all, I want to recognize my really a mentor and a healing force that we have in Pittsburgh, where I'm at. I'm in Allegheny County, who's Jess Williams, who really spearheaded this project. I was their assistant during it, and she's a longtime organizer of the Pittsburgh Recovery Walk, who was granted, LUU, Life Unites us, granted the Pittsburgh Recovery Walk this grant. And it's an amazing program. We've been doing it for a while. It celebrates recovery, eliminates stigma, and showcases many resources in our region. And I'm just really blessed to be a part of it. I work for young people in recovery. As we were talking about earlier, we have chapters all across the country. The chapter lead in Allegheny County. We have all recovery meetings and pro-social events, and we do community organizing and try to do advocacy. We're just it was so exciting to be able to partner up with the Recovery Walk and some incredible folks in our community on this project. And let's talk about the project. So our original idea was Jess and I, who've been working in the recovery movement in Pittsburgh together for a while now, we are both passionate about storytelling and using recovery messaging as a way to come out of the shadows and overcome stigma. And we've been working on that, especially through the Recovery Walk. And we noticed that we weren't seeing a lot of MOUD stories in our community. And Jess especially was very intentional about looking for people. And this was a common challenge for us every year. And so this project was really born to address that obstacle and barrier. And we essentially want more MOUD stories at our Recovery Walk and on social media and in our groups and among our friends everywhere. And so our goal was to set out to recruit 8 people with lived experience with MOUD and an ally for each storyteller. With support from the ally, the storyteller could work towards coming out about their experiences. And by the way, if you have questions that come up, I would love to receive them during this. So please throw them in the chat as I move briskly through this. And I didn't check my time when I started, Erica, so send me a message if I'm going to know if I think I'll be okay though. But anyway, so our goal was to do 2 trainings at the end of 2022 on this project. We were able to recruit 7 total participants, 3 identified as storytellers with lived experience, and all of us identified as allies. And what we learned, this is something I think I'm most proud of about this project, was our ability to pivot and learn as we were going. We immediately recognized in our first session that storytelling wasn't our first issue to solve. Our first issue to solve was safe spaces, and that one of the reasons that no one was coming out and telling their story is it didn't feel safe to people to do so. They didn't know where to go. And they felt as if, is this going to work for me to even do this and have this amazing story, feeling inspired in this location, but where else can I go? And so we immediately started to reorient our project to address those barriers. And we did do 2 meetings in November, but we've continued to meet monthly and actually meeting on Sunday. We've continued forward. But as part of the program, the two workshops that we did do, we identified kind of 4 common themes. One, coming out and providing support for coming out, that there's an interest and a desire to do so. Building on that, we needed to find safe spaces to do so and create and organize safe spaces and advocate for safe spaces where this was possible for folks to do. Also, at part and parcel of that was to tackle myths, very common myths that are out there around MOUD and the efficacy of MOUD as a recovery pathway and the importance of celebrating it as a pathway. And 4, promoting justice, meaning that, of course, as individuals, we have individual responsibility with recovery, and we want to encourage folks recovering using MOUD as a pathway to step up and tell stories. But we as a community have not done enough to support them, and we all need to come together and support each other. It's a big theme, and this 4th one, promoting justice. So I just want to talk about a few of the outcomes. We created a zine magazine, which is coming out soon. Designers are doing an incredible job on it, and I'll get to that in a second. It's called Using Medication for Opioid Use Disorder, a guide for surviving and thriving in the Pittsburgh area. We organized a hybrid medication-assisted recovery anonymous meeting in Pittsburgh's East End and Wilkinsburg. There was just being with the folks in this group, y'all, was just such a privilege. And I'm just so grateful for it. We had this very long list of stigma reducing projects that were just coming out. Like it was, there's so many, and we created a someday maybe list that we're disseminating to others who are interested in doing stigma reduction, that have the desire to help out and just want to know how to invest their energy. So many ideas. And then we have been able, a win for us was we're continuing our monthly meetings, and we're currently funded by the Allegheny County Health Department to continue forward at least through August or so. So those are some of our outcomes. Let's see what I have next. Oh, here's our zine cover. You can see it. We've got this brain, and we've got some cool chemical things, and we've got this beautiful hand, because we're trying to really I wanted to say this at the beginning, but really the reason, one of the big things that united Jess and I at the beginning was wanting to bring some tenderness and care into recovery and into MOUD recovery as a pathway, because there can be a lot of harshness and a lot of debate and a lot of alienation. And we wanted to really intervene on that level and bring some tenderness. And so the zine is about communicating that as much as it is giving knowledge or facts or things like that. And I think our artists did an incredible job. Okay, here's a picture of us at our place. I think this was our first one. We've got some incredible people, like I said, who did really hard work. And were extremely engaged and present. So I was very grateful to be a part of this with them. And yeah. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about is the data. We did have a program evaluation standpoint aspect of our program. I was personally gratified to learn that 100% of participants rated the training quality as excellent, indicated they learned something new and that the training was relevant. I just wanted to pull out, or actually Jess pulled these out, some comments. This was the first time I felt a chance to be myself 100% and not to be judged at all. Feel we were able to identify some pillars for future work and needs while also fostering love and connection. It helped me to want to disclose my MAT history, and I've given that part of my life more of a voice. And then lastly, I've gotten more confident about speaking to clients about the benefits of MOUDs when they're considering them for their own recovery. Feeling connected to a local community that prioritizes this makes me feel less need to be delicate about it. I would just like to put out a call. I mean, if folks on this want to get involved with our ongoing work, here's some contact stuff. You can email me. Got the Recovery Walk, which is a great community to get involved with. And you can check out Young People in Recovery as well. And so thanks so much, everyone, for indulging my presentation. And thanks to Life Unites Us for supporting our work.
Thanks so much, Brian. Love the zine. I think the artwork on that is absolutely fabulous. So moving on here to our next presenter. All righty. So Last but certainly not least is our last speaker, Kristen Topolsky. Kristen is the Vice President of Willow Foundation and the co-founder and Chief Executive Officer of New Roots, Inc. Kristen, I will turn it over to you.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me today. Again, very nice to hear about all the projects and all the great stuff that has happened with the Life Unites Us projects. So today I want to talk to you a little bit about Willow Foundation and how it came to be and how we use the Life Unites Us dollars to help us move our mission forward. I am Kristen Topolsky, the Chief Executive Officer of New Roots, Inc. And New Roots provides recovery support services at recovery support centers in Hazleton, Wilkes-Barre, and Tamaqua, and community-based services throughout Northeast Pennsylvania, using certified peer recovery specialists and doing a lot of work at those recovery support centers. While we were doing that, the city of Hazleton, the Hazleton United Way and Catholic Social Services approached New Roots and asked if we would be interested in meeting a need that had been long existing in the community of opening a day shelter for individuals and families experiencing or at risk of homelessness. So after some consideration, New Roots decided to do that, and we opened a nonprofit organization called Willow Foundation. Initially, we were working out of a community room at Catholic Social Services, and we were serving breakfast and lunch every day at this day center, and we were seeing numerous people coming in. But one thing we quickly noticed was that people who were going to our recovery support center, which happened to be located across the street, would meet with their certified recovery specialist. They would walk across the street and have lunch at the day shelter and look for that community and that support with one another. So as time went on, we really, saw this trend happening, and we had the opportunity to purchase an old funeral home. We purchased an old funeral home. We rehabbed that funeral home and made it into the permanent location for Willow Foundation's Heartwood Center to provide day shelter services in Lower Luzerne County. So when Life Unites Us, when the opportunity came to apply for those, we started thinking about, what are some of the things that we really see that impact our individuals that we're serving? And again, it was that stigma and that need for self-care and taking care of themselves and being willing to talk and about themselves and tell their stories and feel a part of the community rather than feeling marginalized. So our Life Unites Us project had a two-prong approach. The first one was to work on self-care projects and integrate individuals into the community. So as you can see in some of the pictures that I have posted, we partner with some colleges and some other great projects to bring them into the center. We bring in our local law enforcement officers, to kind of have coffee with our members and talk about, being a part of the community. We've had hairdressers who've signed up to provide weekly haircuts to our individuals. We've had yoga classes. We've had all sorts of life skills and things that have happened really just to make this a true community center and a resource hub for individuals and families that are experiencing or at risk of homelessness, and correlating that with substance abuse issues being one of the leading reasons that people can find themselves at risk of homelessness. The other thing that we did, and Eric, if you want to go to the next slide, was because we were a new center, Life Unites Us gave us the opportunity to showcase the community center at an open house. So we put a lot of time and energy into inviting people and key stakeholders and really just opening the doors and showing the greater Hazleton community that there is somewhere to go and that there is a safe place and that, there is no discrimination when you walk through our doors, and really just inviting them to be a part of what we're trying to do in our community. And Eric, if you want to go to the next slide. So some of the things the Willow Foundation's Heartwood Center did through the Life Unites Us project was we were able to begin talking openly about stigma that people face. We discovered a lot of life skills in working with each other and talking about to each other and about different scenarios. Developed some really great self-care practices, made meaningful connections with one another, practice a lot of civic engagement. And last but not least, we certainly enhanced the feeling of self-worth among everyone who participated in the project. And with the pictures, you can kind of see some of the fun things that we did. Life Unites Us grant allowed us to purchase a big screen TV in order to have Zoom access and have webinars and things going on for individuals. So really, we just created this network, people and support through these dollars to talk about stigma and to talk about taking care of ourselves and one another. That's all I have.
Thanks so much, Kristen. And I really love all your pictures. I definitely feel like they show the warmth and the real sense of community you guys are fostering there, which
Thank
is
you.
wonderful. All righty. So I want to give a big thanks to all of our presenters for sharing today. We're so proud that you guys are the first round of grantees for the project. All of your programs and the work you're doing is just phenomenal. So with that being said, we're going to move into the discussion and Q&A session of the webinar today. I know we have quite a few questions that have come in, so we have some questions prepared as well, so I will do my best to get through all of them as quickly as possible. I do just want to mention, someone did put in the chat, can you provide us with the contact information for these programs? I will make sure all of our presenters' emails and contact information are included in the slide deck. So once the slide deck is posted, you will have all of their information about the programs, the slides they shared today, and ways to get a hold of them if you're interested. So our first question here is for Lee. Lee, one thing you mentioned in your presentation was that you were really intentional about making these the speaker series in Spanish as a way to reach the Latinx community. I just wanted to ask if there was any other strategies or things that you did to really help with engaging that community beyond the language adjustment.
So since I've been working in the field for a long time, I just knew where the population was lacking, right? So they kept coming to me saying, you're doing all these speaker series in English, how can you do it for us? And then I contacted one of the outpatient treatment centers here, and they gave me the space and allowed me to utilize that space to have the speaker series there. And once the Hispanic population found out that these speaker series were taking place, I mean, it was overwhelming at how many people showed up. The food helped. I, provided food. I provided raffles for gift cards. I raffled off some books. I raffled off some clothing wear, and that kept them coming back. And the speakers that I did have come out and share their stories were very powerful. They were very vulnerable with their stories. They allowed themselves to just share everything with the participants that showed up, that so many of them had asked for treatment, although they didn't start right away. So we met them where they were at. And just since I'm a CRS, I also just helped coach them along until they were ready. And then they started their process. But yeah, it was great to see, because I have an English speaking speaker series as well. But just due to the lack of services for the Hispanic population, the turnout for the Spanish speaking population was bigger, just because they weren't getting that. And it's all Spanish speaking. They go to outpatient. Sometimes they have interpreters. Interpretation gets lost. It's not being interpreted right. So they're not getting fully what they're not comprehending what's being told to them. And then the counselors or therapists are not receiving what they're actually saying. So it was very helpful for them. to have an all Spanish speaking where they understand every single word, and then they can also interact in their language.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. Next question here is for Bobby. Bobby, this person would like to know if the program that you're piloting is active in Allegheny County.
We are actually doing this pilot program in Clearfield County, but as far as NACOA goes, NACOA is a national organization, so they're actually headquartered out of I think it's Kensington, Maryland. And then if you go to their website, which is NACOA, NACOA.org. By the way, it's NACOA Voice for the Children. So NACOA stands for National Association of Children, originally of alcoholism, but of addiction, and now it's Voice for the Children. You can go to that website and you can actually, as an organization, become an affiliate. And so they have affiliates all over the United States, and there are benefits to that too. So I would encourage you to check it out if you want to implement something like this in Allegheny County.
Wonderful. Thank you. And another question here for you. I'm going to give you two, Bobby. So how do you protect the privacy of the children based on the topics discussed in the group?
Yeah, that's a tough one. And so I think there's twofold answer to that. First of all, when people are referred, it is basically just myself that maintains those records. Now the school has been involved from the guidance department, but of course they adhere to that confidentiality as well. So on that end, from an administrative end, we have those expectations in place, and it's very limited as to who has access to that. The bigger concern for me was the group, because these are elementary school kids, right? They're aging range from 2nd grade to 6th grade. And so we're relatively new into it, but that we basically have group rules, much like a 12-step program, where that we go through. We reiterate them every group. They understand the concept of confidentiality, or should, because we talk about Vegas. It's Vegas. Everything that happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right? And they also have the opportunity to pass. So that's actually one of the group rules. So they don't have to share if they don't want to. And really, the curriculum is based in such a great way that we do less object lessons or activities that kind of hit the point across. And so when we do ask questions of the kids, they're not pointed questions. We're not really probing them for, hey, what's going on at your house type of thing, unless they want to share that. But it is made very clear that they do not have to share anything, but that it is a safe place. And so the rest of the kids are expected to, adhere to that. And our control only goes so far. We can set the expectations. There are, there would be ramifications through the school, certainly, that we would have to say, like, look, if something came out that it was breached, that's a concern, but that hasn't happened. So.
Great, thank you. Next question I have is for Kristen. Why do you feel the homeless population was important to target when addressing stigma?
I believe that when we began seeing individuals that were experiencing homelessness, this reoccurring theme of substance use disorder, either experienced by themselves or someone that they knew, kept coming across, and they felt very stigmatized. They felt like they couldn't openly talk about, these are the reasons that maybe, led to my homelessness, or, led to me not having the life skills that I need to have in order to maintain housing or maintain employment. So really just listening to people's stories and, listening to how they felt and how they felt stigmatized, and tailoring our program towards those individuals. And again, the correlation between housing and substance use is giant. And, we need to recognize that not just someone who is actively using, but maybe someone who was raised in a home or a community where drugs are prevalent.
Great, thank you. Next question I have here is for Brian. What are the next steps for the MOUD Storytellers Grant, and what surprises or new developments can we expect to see in the program's future?
Thanks for that. That's such a good question. Thanks for relaying it, Erica, and to the questioner. So the next steps for us, we've been very gratified that there was such sustained interest. So we plan to meet monthly as long as we have an engaged, active community who's interested in it. And we've opened our group, so we're recruiting new members. And I would say that the surprises, we are really interested in planting new safe spaces for folks utilizing MOUD as a recovery pathway. And we'd really like to enroll the rest of the recovery community, the recovery movement, to really support us on that and to step up as allies. So we'll be looking at ways to help foster and encourage that. Thanks.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, have another question for you here, Bobby. Did you experience any obstacles in implementing the program or enrolling children who could benefit? If so, how did you address?
Yeah, I mean, the whole point that we're doing this to overcome stigma, it's there. And people, even grand families that are, struggling, that know that maybe these kiddos need that extra support, don't want anybody to know. In this small town, rural USA, what's going on, and they definitely don't want the school nebbing. And so it was tough, but we just kept at it. We kept it informed. We really took a positive spin on it and focused on the positive things that the kids would be learning, and gave them ways. We included scan codes and different things where people could go online and register, so that they didn't even have to call the school. And then also we were proactive in that I met with our family court judge in Clearfield County, and he was very supportive of the program. And for parents who were struggling with substance use disorder that may be facing a loss of custody of their kiddos, and their kids went to the school district, they were going to, refer them and expect them to engage them, because ultimately, our hope would be that this trickles down to the parents and to the other guardians, and be an educational piece for them too. So the other thing was setting and location. The school was extremely supportive, and I can't say enough about them, but when they first put us in place, they said, we'll put you in the cafeteria. It's in the middle of the afternoon. Nobody's back there. The first day, there were 15 other people milling through the cafeteria. I mean, in no fault of their own. I'm sure they didn't realize that, but it was a place that they just kind of grabbed space too. And you could tell the kids felt uncomfortable. So it just was a matter of addressing it with them. We had to change the day, but they gave us a quiet, private space now, that there was no other student traffic, no other people back there. It's just us and the kids. You could note it was noticeably a different vibe. So we just worked through it,
Wonderful. Yeah, always challenges and ways to navigate them.
Yep.
All right, next question here is for Lee. Based on the obviously outstanding success with your Spanish speaker series and the overwhelming response from the community, what's next for you guys? Are you planning to offer more of the same kind of programming in Spanish, or any other additional programming, maybe to supplement some of those gaps you were mentioning?
So yeah, currently we have applied for some funding through DDAP and the Council on Chemical Abuse here, the Single County Authority. They financially support us currently for the speaker series. And then we have some other avenues that we are applying with as well to provide CRS services, to continue to have more speaker series, like for the Hope Rescue Mission, and help out the homeless population as well, provide support meetings for them as well. And it doesn't have to be an AA or NA 12-step program, just a support group where people can get together and talk about where they're at currently that day, or just talk about the speaker. Because the plan is to have 2 speakers a month at each organization, and then have those support meetings 3 times a week, and then whoever needs our help or assistance with guidance, into recovery, we can have one-on-ones with them and do CRS services with them as well. Currently partnered up with Alvernia and Opaque University to do a radio show. I do have a podcast, and I'm a motivational speaker, and I go around and, promote my book as well. So yeah, there's things in the horizon, just waiting on that stuff to happen. But currently still doing the work, and I'm an advocate for harm reduction. So I'm out there handing out the Narcan kits and the fentanyl testers, and, continue to hand out literature and just keep inspiring people. I try to be the voice out loud, so like that people don't die silently. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely. That's wonderful.
Thanks.
Sounds like you're doing a lot of really great stuff here. Next question I have is for, I think it's Brian. The question is, I know a lot of people who struggle with the 12-step recovery concept while utilizing MOUD options and would benefit from these meetings. Is there only one meeting in Pittsburgh?
Thanks for that, Chris. Yeah, I don't want to, I want to make sure I'm not erasing anyone's work that I'm not aware of right now. So we can do some community asset mapping to kind of confirm this. But I know that we have our MOUD storytellers group, which we're meeting actively and would love to enroll people of. We have our MARA group that meets on Thursdays in Wilkinsburg, and some things launching in Homestead in Allegheny County very soon. And I'd love to work with you to find any other options that are available that I'm not aware of. Those are the ones that I am just off the top of my head. And I apologize to some of my colleagues who I know are out there doing community organizing that I'm not aware of. And we'll find you and join forces soon. But email me if you want to talk more, okay?
Great, thanks, Brian. And we'll wrap up here with one last question for Kristen. In regards to your project, what do you think is the long-term impact?
I believe the long-term impact is that we finally have a community in Lower Luzerne County that is embracing the fact that services are needed and are willing to talk about rather than sweep our issues under the rug. And I also believe that, Lower Luzerne County typically had been a spot where there had not been a lot of collaboration. And I feel that, through projects like this, we're opening those doors of collaboration so that we can all work together to have the greatest impact on people in need.
Great, thank you. All right, I'm just looking through all the comments here. There's a lot of really great comments. I just want to mention before we wrap up here that Cindy, who is a member of the Community Impact Committee, left a little note here. She was one of the ones who had reviewed all of your applications, obviously, and she said that reading them was great, but hearing about them was so much better. Your passions come through, and I wish each of you and your organizations continued success. And I just want to echo those sentiments. The work you guys are doing, the passion really does come through, and we're really excited to be able to share that with everybody. So we're at the hour here, so we're going to wrap up. I do just want to mention that when you close out of this webinar, you will automatically be redirected to a survey that should just take you a quick couple minutes to let us know how we did, what you thought of our presenters, and ways that we can improve the training experience for future Life Unites Us webinars. We would really appreciate your feedback on that. As I mentioned, this webinar is being recorded and the slides will be posted as well. And you can find those on the Life Unites Us data dashboard. And also be on the lookout here for an announcement, probably sometime here in the next few weeks, on our next round of Community Award grantees. We're really looking forward to this next round. And again, thank you to all of our panelists and for all of our attendees today. Take care.